We're running late this morning. We'll get started very shortly, all right?
No problem.
Okay. Morning, Bob. Good to see you. Steve, I got a ride home. Thanks. I got the guys on Zoom already. Okay.
Anyone have a dozen eggs?
No egg jokes today, right? because that's exactly what we don't mean.
I forgot my name at home, but
Okay. I'm going to start right away with these sponsors, and then hopefully by then everybody will be back into the room and we'll get on the Gemara. Okay. A Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, and Yerivka Pro Rosner bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Just want to check. Right, okay. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Marsha Federbush and family, memory of her husband, Dr. Real Paul Federbush, Real Pinchas ben Harav Shimon, Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edel Bas Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avrameir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler, China bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein, and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Month of Learning by Gary and Marsha Schrager in memory of his father, David ben Yosef, and his mother, Freda bas Hendel. Dov Budlander in memory of his parents, Sri ben Yaakov Yitzchak David Rasha bas Harav Dober, and his in-laws, Yehuda Tzvi ben David Nachum Altechaya bas Avram Yosef. Mela and Haran Halloran in memory of his father, Avram ben Zev. Week of Learning by Edie and Steve Vigdor in memory of her mother, Glickl bat Avram Yaakov, by Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his brother, Shimon ben Meir. And that is it. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafi of that Yeshua Shema Tzriya. Open Israel, good bench, John.
Amen.
All right. Somebody said to me, when we start learning this, I shouldn't make mistakes because then I'd be laying an egg. All right. Okay, Jim. All right, depending on your what your background is. Okay. No.
You don't know?
I don't know. That's because some people were uncomfortable because the word Beitza also refers to a section of the male
Anatomy.
anatomy. Thank you. Right. Okay. Okay. All right. So that's why. Right. As somebody used to say, why do we dip egg in salt water on Pesach? Last joke. Why do we dip? Because who was it? The prince of the tribe of Nachshon ben Aminadav. How far did he go into the water?
Up his neck.
That's what the Midrash says.
The net or no, only up to
Well, that's the joke.
That's a joke.
That's the joke. Why do we dip egg in salt water?
Right.
Oh.
You missed the beginning.
All right. Okay. All right. Enough.
I never heard that either.
You never heard that? Okay. Beitza, Beya, Shenolda lo beyond. Where's Michael? Is he on his way in? Okay. That an egg that was, I'm going to say for the moment, hatched. Okay, using that translation. Okay, and it's going to introduce us to the concept. Okay, Beit Shammai Omrim regarding that egg. Beit Shammai says tochal, that one could eat from it. Beit Hillel Omrim lo teochel, that one cannot eat from it. Next piece. Beit Shammai Omrim sheor b'kazayit b'chametz b'kakoteven. Right, the sheor, the well. Okay, I saw also other too. All right, what is that? Okay, if we're having a measurement, okay, and the amount of grain, okay, has to be measured with a kazayit, an olives amount, the
Sour is sourdough.
right, is that right?
Right.
The, well, that's what I said, it's an amount of grain, and that grain is going to be theoretically, now, chametz, okay, some want to argue that chametz is the sourdough. Okay. Others want to say it's regular leaven.
Right.
Okay, I'm just saying, giving different, right? Bekakotevet, that is a large date, but less than the size of an egg. Okay, going to be able to get in there? Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. Beit Hillel Omrim Zev v'Zev b'kazayis, and Beit Hillel says both. Okay, let's use the word sourdough for the moment. Okay, although right, I don't know if Art Scroll translated it that. Okay, all right, look at it. I didn't have Art Scroll accessible when I was looking at it. Okay, and chametz leaven. Okay, both of them are measured by a olives amount. Okay, next, hashochet chaya va'of b'yom tov, one who slaughters a animal. Okay, and okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, an animal and a bird, right? B'yom tov. Okay, so again, come back to the question: are we talking chaya, animal in general, or are we talking specifically a wild animal?
Cover the blood, so we're talking about.
Whoa, we'll get to it. We'll get. Wait, hold on. Okay, that's why I want to leave it open a little bit, because when we get to the new piece, we'll clarify. Okay, Beit Shammai Omrim, Beit Shammai says, assuming that it's a wild animal, Yachpor b'dakar v'yichaseh. Okay, namely, he can take a shovel, a spade, dig it and cover it. Okay, and therefore that would seem to clarify that the word chaya here implies a wild animal. Okay, Beit Hillel Omrim, says Beit Hillel, lo yishchot ela im kein hayalo afar muchan miba'od yom, that he should not slaughter that kind of animal. Again, assumption being that it's a wild animal, unless he has pre-prepared earth, okay, ashes, whatever, something available, okay, from beforehand, right, to be able to cover, right? What happens though? Umodim she'im shachat, and they both acknowledge that if he slaughtered it, shiachpor b'dakar v'chaseh, okay, that he should take a spade, a shovel, and dig it and cover it, okay, with that piece. Okay, she'efer kira muchanhu, right? Because he would have this ashes ready from the oven, and he could use those. Okay, why didn't I translate chaya immediately as wild animal? Okay, because we're going to, as we go into the Gemara, I'll come back to that issue momentarily.
Almost always
Generally,
non-domesticated.
right. Okay, but ask yourself the question: why would they slaughter a non-domesticated animal for food on Yom Tov if they had the option of domesticating it? Okay, so we'll come back to that issue.
Covering ashes. Is that the halacha?
You have to cover the blood of the animal when you slaughter it.
That's halacha.
That's halal,
It's a diraisa.
right? Yeah. But my yaskina, right? Sawdust, right? Okay. So the first item that the Mishnah mentioned was the egg. So that's the first thing that the Gemara is going to address. But my yaskina, what are we talking about? Ilema advance. for eating, okay, whatever the way, who debate Hillel. Then what is the reasoning of Beit Hillel that they say it is forbidden to be eaten? Ochla, right? One should, the afrat, right? Why should one be able to eat it? Because it's already been set aside, separated. I'm going to use that translation for the moment. In other words, having been designated for food stuff, then theoretically anything that comes from that animal would also be a viable food stuff.
Just like you can eat the wing, you can eat the egg.
All right, so the point is, Ella, b'tarnagolet ha'omedet legadel beitzim. But what we must be talking about then, says the Gemara, is not a chicken that was designated for food as itself, but the chicken for an egg to be produced, okay? It doesn't happen on the spot, so to speak. It has to happen at least a day in advance.
No, if it has a spot, you can't eat it.
That's a different joke, okay? My tam maihu debate shama. If that's the case, if we're talking about a chicken, okay, that is designated, okay, for eggs, and therefore that was a translation from that chicken. Like an egg would also be considered set aside, muktzah, and therefore not usable. However, remember our Mishnah said, no, lad, it didn't start off with saying, beitza shemuktzah. Okay?
It just said Nolda was born, but it doesn't say
Okay,
the
Nolda.
concept of Noah.
Right. Okay. So we're going to have to perhaps deal with that. Right. Okay. So I just point that out real quick. So my Talmayo de Beit Shammai. What's the reasoning of Beit Shammai that they would say it's permitted? Mukzahi. Okay. Ordinarily, that variety. Now, I'm going to stop here just to point out real quick that we need to remember both Art Scroll and Koren point out there are a variety of different kinds of muktzah. One variety, just to keep in mind, would be muktzah mius, okay? Something that's muktzah because it's detestable.
Right.
And, all right. Another kind of muktzah is something that would be set aside because it's a particular kind of utensil. And the owner of the utensil, the craftsman, does not want other people to use it. Okay. Right? So that would be another kind. Okay, we've got technical.
But the art one, its introduction lists all the forms of muktzah.
Right. The what? Right.
They list all the
Yeah.
muktzah.
Okay, so all I'm saying is we need to keep in mind, okay, that these are the case. And there was a machloket among the Tanaim to whether muktzah applies, right? What doesn't apply. Okay, so we're going to get into that, but I want to prepare us to understand as we go on. So here we're saying, basically, doesn't this tell us, okay, wouldn't you say therefore that this egg is not acceptable because it's in the status of muktzah, whatever one of those definitions might be, okay?
Just as we said, the chicken is part of the egg is part of the chicken if it's la'achila. So too, the egg is part of the chicken if it's for legadol deim.
Right.
So it's automatically, the fact that it came from muktzah,
it's still muktzah. Right. Okay, we're not disagreeing with that. We're just pointing out, keeping them now. So what then is the problem? Gemara says, Dilma Beit Shammai lead lahom muktzah. Maybe Beit Shammai doesn't hold. I'm going to say one could explain it from the entire concept of muktzah, or maybe Beit Shammai doesn't hold from this particular variety of muktzah. Either way, that's the question the Gemara is presenting. Kasag da'atan. Notice, by the way, this isn't the usual language. Usually we've had kasag da'atcha. What is your view? What do you think? So now it's asking, what do we think? What is this? Afilu man deshari b'muktzah. Even those who do permit, okay, In other words, remember we said there's a machloket on muktzah, whether you accept it or not, okay, and what kind. So even those who permit muktzah, in other words, having, okay, or moving, let's say for the moment, a set aside item. Let's use that for the moment as a translation. Okay, ben nolad, which is another category, something that never existed previously, okay,
So it couldn't be
in its
designated.
current state, right? And therefore it's not subject to an individual opinion. I'm reading right from the notes from Koren. And therefore all would agree that in the situation of muktzah, of nolad, it is should clearly be a definitive muktzah issue, but nolad asa. So the Gemara then asks, my time with the Beit Shammai. So what then is the reasoning again back to Beit Shammai? Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, leolam b'tarnegolet ha'omedet ledagel beitzim. Okay, what we're talking about, the gadel and chicken that's been raised for egg producing. Okay, udeit le muksa. Okay, and according to the one who says that muksa is an issue, okay, and we're going to see that's going to become Rabbi Yehuda as we get on in the Gemara. Okay, eat le nolad. He also holds by the issue of nolad. Udelit le muksa. And but according to those who don't hold a concept in general of muktzah, lit le nolad, it would imply that he does not hold by the concept of nolad. Okay, therefore we might think, since I mentioned, okay, that those who, right, who have muktzah reflect Rabbi Yehuda, his Baal Plugda is Rabbi Shimon, okay, and that's why the Gemara is going to tell us now, Beit Shammai ke Rabbi Shimon. Excuse me. It must be that Beit Shammai, okay, if we're saying that they don't hold by muktzah, that they must be of the same view as Rabbi Shimon. Beit Hillel ke Rabbi Yehuda, and that Beit Hillel has to be according to the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, is that really the case? Let's go on. Umi amar Rav Nachman hachi, and was that really what Rav Nachman implied when he explained the whole machlok? V'hatnan, aren't we taught in a Mishnah as follows? Beit Shammai omrim, says Beit Shammai. Okay, with another example, dealing with still the question of muktzah. Now, this may be a slightly different variety of muktzah in this example, but it's still whether you accept the concept of muktzah. Okay, namely, excuse me, Beit Shammai omrim magbihin me'al hashulchan atzamot uklipin, that one may remove from the table or the board, okay, bones and shells. Okay, Ubeit Hillel omrim, and Beit Hillel says, misalek et hatavla, that one removes the entire board or table. Okay, kula, in its entirety, umina ara, and shakes it off.
So you can't touch it.
So that you cannot handle the bones and the shells directly. Now, that could either be because they're mius, that would be one.
If it was mius, you couldn't move it.
Well, we'll see.
And so
I'm just
no.
raising. We're going to get to that. Okay. It could be because of the category of muktzah by mius, that something is detestable, or it could be from a different category of muktzah. Okay, but either way, okay, the question is being raised. Still, does Beit Shammai? Where do they hold?
It would be mitzvah shafar avana. If it was
Well, we'll
mius,
see.
Beis Hillel would say you could.
We'll see. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Hold on. Va'amar Rav Nachman. Okay. Va'amar Rav Nachman. Anu ein lanu ela Beit Shammai ke Rabbi Yehuda. But Rav Nachman says, hold on a second. Okay, we, okay, are under the, let's say at least have learned under the impression that Beit Shammai is the one who holds like Rabbi Yehuda. That exists. Shimon. And that it's Beit Hillel that holds Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman, in response to the Gemara there, says, Gabi Shabbat, the Satam Lanu Tana, Kirabi Shimon. Regarding Shabbat, okay, that the time basically stated it, okay, in such a way that it followed the position of Rabbi Shimon. Titznan, as was taught, mechatchin et hadluim lifnei habehema ve'et hanavela lifnei haklavim, that it's permissible to cut up the gourds or cucumbers, however we'll translate that, for in front of an animal on Shabbat. And likewise on Shabbat, it is permissible to cut up nevela, okay, the carcass of an dead animal for dogs to eat them, right, on Shabbat.
The
Okay,
animal died
right,
after on Shabbos, so that's why it's muktzah.
right, okay, well, okay. So what happens? Umokim la Beit Hillel Karabi Shimon. And regarding that particular Mishnah, we've established that Beit Hillel holds like Rabbi Shimon, that there is no muksa. All right? Okay.
I can't touch it.
No, you can move it.
Okay, muksa means it's been set aside so that you cannot use it for any purpose. Okay? Now, regardless of what, excuse me, regardless of what the reasoning is, okay, it's not available to you. Okay, that's how we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Okay, we'll have to see. Aval, let's go over to the next word. Gabe Yom Tov. So that was regarding Shabbos. Aval Gabi Yom Tov, the Satam Lantana, Karabi Yehuda. But in regardings to Yom Tov, the same Tana, however, presented the material according to the view of Rabbi Yehuda that there is muktzah. Titznan, why? Because he says there, Ein mevakin eitzim min hakorot, that we are not permitted to split wood or chop wood from beams. Velo min hakoreh shenishbara b'yom tov, and not not from a beam that is to Rabbi Yehuda, that there he establishes that view of Beit Hillel like the view of Rabbi Yehuda in that case. Okay, so if that's the point, Michte, what do we see since that's the case? Man desatme lematmi, according to whom is our Mishnah then formulated? Okay, Rebbe. Okay, it was formulated by Rebbe. So what the Gemara wants to know is, Ma'ishna b'Shabbat, what is so unique or different in regards to Shabbat, the Satam Lan K'Rabbi Yehuda, that he formulated, okay, it according to the view of Rebbe Shimon, okay, U'Ma'ishna b'Yom Tov, and what's so unique or different about Yom Tov, the Stam Lan K'Rabbi Yehuda, that he therefore formulated it in both cases, but that's not the situation.
A Stam Mishnah is usually considered Rebbe Meir. So
Yeah.
here we have two Stam Mishnahs that contradict, and that's what it's asking.
Partially. Okay. I'm not going to go with that totally because that, at least Corin did not want to phrase it, or nor any of its notes wanted to phrase it simply based on Rabbi Meir. Okay. Even though Rabbi was a strong student. Okay. But the language that he used, okay, translation of position. Why did he do it one way or another? Whether it was Amre, okay, we might say the following: Shabbat de Chamira, where Shabbos is more stringent in regards to its punishments, velo ate lezulzuleba, and people are not apt to deprecate it, right? Satam lan Rabbi Shimon the Makel, right? That therefore it was formulated according to the view of Rabbi Shimon, who was more lenient in this situation. Okay, remember Rabbi Shimon was the one who said, what?
Says muktzah.
Muktzah is,
There is
in other
no muktzah.
there is no
Permitted.
muktzah.
Right.
Okay, Yom Tov, where is a Yom Tov? The keel, where its prohibitions are more lenient,
Punishment.
right? The punishments are more lenient, right? Va'ate lezulzulebe, and people might come to treat it lightly, denigrate it, right? Satam lan Rabbi Yehuda the Machmir, and therefore it was formulated more like Rabbi Yehuda, okay, who was more stringent. So the Gemara still asks a valid question, coming back now to our original issue, okay? B'maya okimta. So how do we establish our own mission? Okay, now we're going to get a slightly different explanation. But Tarnagol at home met it lagadel beitzim umishum muktzah. Okay, so we've added something. We didn't use the language of nolda here. Instead, we're using the language that it's the same kind of chicken set aside for egg laying, but it is acknowledged as muktzah. Ihachi, if that's the case, adamiflagei bebeitza, liflago b'tarnagolet. If you're saying that we're talking about a chicken that is already considered muktzah, why only phrase our Mishnah in using the example of the egg, right? Why not use both the example of the chicken and the egg? Okay, that's the Gemara's asking. Lahodiacha. So the Gemara tries to answer that question. Lahodiacha kochan de Beit Shammai de benolad shari. To show you the strength of the view of Beit Shammai, that regarding the status of nolad, of a brand new, okay, item, that it would be permitted. So the Gemara then says, "V'lefloge b'tarnagolet lahodiacha kochan de Beit Hillel de b'muktzah asir." Maybe we should have said that the argument of our Mishnah still should have raised the status of the chicken being muktzah, in order to show us the strength of the argument of Beit Hillel to say that it is forbidden. Okay, so the Gemara says, "V'chitema," and even if you want to say, "Koach dehatera adif," okay, that maybe the reason they wanted to show the Beit Shammai's position of being more lenient is to show us that in general we have a principle that says koach dehatera adif, that power of permissibility is to be preferred, namely v'niflog b'travaihu. So let us say they could still phrase our Mishnah in a manner to show that the argument is about both the chicken and the egg. For example, phrase it the following way: Tarnagolet ha'omedet legadel beitzim or beim, he ubeya, right? Ubeitzata, that chicken that has been prepared as a egg-laying chicken, it and its egg, right? Beit Shammai omrim teochel. Beit Shammai says it may be eaten. Beit Hillel omrim lo teochel. And Beit Hillel says it may not be eaten. Okay. Having gone so far, what we've seen is our Mishnah stated it one way with Nolda. This explanation took a Braita, I would suggest, and tried to phrase it somewhat differently. Still the same kind of chicken, okay, but a slightly different situation, an immediate acknowledgement of muktzah. Now we're going to get to another attempt to explain, right? Ella, rather, says the Gemara, Amar Rabba, he says as follows, right? Le'olam b'tarnegolet ha'omedet la'achila. No, he says, we're talking about a chicken that was designated initially for foodstuffs, right? That's not only, we're talking about a yontif that had occurred on starting Motzei Shabbos and Sunday. Now, if that's the case, that's what we're dealing about. When did that egg come into existence?
It was born on Yom Tov.
No,
Be'er
it was born on Shabbos.
Be'er Shenol
The
the
Beyond
Beyond.
the Mishnah said it
born-
wasn't
it-
born.
The egg was laid.
The
Sunday
egg was
morning.
hatched
The
Sunday.
leg was laid.
But when
by-
was the egg, when did it come into
well,
existence?
that's what Rava's going to explain.
That's what we're gonna see.
As
Okay, right?
you
Did
nailed
it,
me
did
with
it, did it come into existence on the day it
that's
was
Rava's
hatched?
chiddush. No.
Wait,
that's Rava's
wait, we'll see. Okay, or did it come into existence beforehand? Okay. So here's the point. That's what he's arguing. So notice he sees it in a different context, a different kind of chicken, and then the hatching occurred on a situation. Okay. The laying. Okay. So what happens? Okay.
That's
Umishum hachana. Okay. But he's saying, here's his chiddush. Okay. Umishum hachana. Because of the issue of preparation from Shabbos to Yom Tov. Okay, that's where my problem, Rabbah says. That's what the whole issue is about. Ukesava Rabbah, and Rabbah therefore is of the opinion, called Beitza, Damit Yalda Ha'idna Me'etmol Gamra La, that any egg that was, okay, laid today, namely on that Sunday of Yom Tov, it had come into existence previously. Okay,
Umrah is complete.
right? It had reached its full stage, which implies with the shell. That's what it implies. Okay, previously. The Rabbah, the Tame. And Rabbi went according to his line of reasoning. The Amar Rabbah says Rabbah as follows. My dichtiv. What does it mean when it says it's written? V'haya v'yom hashishi v'hechinu et asher yavi. That the pasuk says that it was the sixth day and they prepared. Okay, and I like to read in advance that which they were going to bring. All right. What does that tell us? Chol mechin l'Shabbat, v'chol mechin l'Yom Tov. From a normal day, an unconsecrated day, sometimes translated a weekday, right? One can prepare for Shabbat. For that kind of unconsecrated day, unsacred day, weekday, mechin l'Yom Tov. One can prepare for the Yom Tov. However, says Rabbah, ve'ein Yom Tov mechin l'Shabbat, but you cannot prepare from a Yom Tov to Shabbat. Ve'ein Shabbat mechina l'Yom Tov, and you cannot prepare from Shabbat to Yom Tov. Okay. Now, eventually, of course, we all know at some point the Gemara is going to have to deal with that issue. Exactly. Exactly.
or hoil.
Okay. Eventually, we're going to have to deal with that. And that's what happens eventually when we get to the whole concept of an Erev Tavshilin, as Michael suggested. Okay. So what happens? Let's come back now. Okay. Amale Abayi. So Abayi now is responding. Ela Rabbi, he says. So another question we're going to just throw in here is Abayi going to now come up with another whole different scenario?
Of course, he always
Okay.
argues with Rabba.
Okay. Is he going to give a different argument as to what kind of chicken it's going to be? Or or when the egg was completed or hatched, laid, or things like that? We'll see. Amar le Abayi, Ela me'ata Yom Tov ba'alma tishtari. Okay. He says, if that's the case, he says, if the egg is there, okay. If you're going to say, Rabbah says that the egg was actually produced the previous day, and it's now reached its completion, okay, and now it's the next day that it's laid, okay, then it really wasn't laid on Yom
It's
Tov.
not really Nola.
Right, it's not really Noah. All right. Gzeira mishum Yom Tov achar haShabbat. Okay, maybe then, says Abai, this is a decree that was instituted. So Gemara then says, Shabbos, the Alma Tishtare. Does this seems to imply that even on Shabbos then, that egg should be permitted? Because if we reach its completed stage on Zera Mishum Shabbat, Achar Yom Tov. Okay, maybe then we also have a decree that says that the egg is forbidden because of the fact Shabbat occurred could occur after Yom Tov. Umi Gazrina. So who makes such a decree? Vahatanya. But wasn't it taught elsewhere in a Bright? Hashochet et atarnagolet. Umatzaba beitzim gmurot. One who slaughters a chicken and finds within it completed, shelled, the eggs have reached the point that they already have the shells on it. Okay, what happens? Beyond they if they were actually made on Amarle. Okay, so the Gemara now tells us, in other words, Rabbah's coming back and tells him, Beitzin Gmurot b'ma'ei iman milta delosh chichahi. Finding completed eggs that have the shell on it inside the chicken when you slaughter it, okay, is not the common Okay, so what happens now? So he says, "Umilta de lo shchicha, lo gashu ba rabbanan." So as we begin to finish up, what do we see? Rav Yosef has got to join the discussion. And what did he say? Zera mishum perot hanoshrim. Okay, he says no. He says that zera. Okay, it's for okay, it's for an issue of the fruit. Okay, if fruit falls off a tree on Shabbos or even on Yom Tov, so what happens? Are you permitted to pick it up and eat it? Tamamai. So Abaye asked Rav Yossi, so what's the reason that you're saying that fallen produce from the tree is not permitted to be picked up and eaten? As we go just shortly on the top of Gimel Amud Aleph, Gezerah Shema Ya'alev Yitlosh. Okay, namely, he's saying that is a Gezerah, lest the person decide, oh, that apple looks so good, but it's fallen on the ground. There's another one that looks just like it up on the tree. I'll climb up and get it. So
Doesn't apply here by the,
what?
that doesn't apply by the chicken.
Well, true. He goofa
You never
gezerah.
reached into a chicken to pull out an egg? I'm
No.
ashamed of you.
He goofa gezerah. That a gezerah is in itself. Va'anan nikum v'nigzor gezerah legezer. Shall we come and establish one gezerah on top of another? Okay. Kula chada gezerah. It's all one gezerah, and we're going to stop right there.
You're right.